from the center of America's precious metals conversation, this is The Gold Show, your source for insight on safeguarding wealth in uncertain times. Hosted by Walt Philips and brought to you by Reagan Gold Group, we help educate Americans on physical gold and silver and the role precious metals can play in a diversified retirement strategy. To learn more, call 800-702-2212 or visit goldgoodlife.com. That's goldgoodlife.com. Now, here's your host, Walt Philips.
And welcome to The Gold Show. I am your host, Walt Philips, and this broadcast is brought to you by my good friends at Reagan Gold Group. Folks, I want to start today's show a little differently. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to really sit with it for a second before I move on. Picture yourself right now in your 80s or your 90s. You're sitting in a chair, and your kids, the people you worked your whole life for, the people you sacrificed for, the people you stayed late at the office for, the people you skipped vacations for. Your kids are stressed out. They are stressed out because of you. Not because they don't love you. They love you more than anything. But they're stressed out because the money is not there. Because the retirement account got eaten up by inflation. Because the paper system that you trusted your whole life quietly drained the value of everything you built. And now your kids, instead of living their own lives, raising their own families, building their own futures, they're worried about you. They're picking up the slack. They're losing sleep over you. Is that the legacy you want to leave? Because that's exactly what's going to happen to millions of Americans who are sitting on the sidelines right now watching the world change and doing nothing about it. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because I've seen it happen. I've talked to people who are in the exact situation, and every single one of them says the same thing. I wish I'd listened sooner, Walt. I wish I paid attention. I wish I made the move when the window was open. The window's open right now. And I'm not going to let you sit here for the next 30 minutes, hear everything I'm about to tell you, and then do nothing. Because you deserve better than that. Your family deserves better than that. Before we go any further, write this number down. 1-800-702-2212. That's the direct line to the precious metals specialists at Reagan Gold Group. Or go to goldgoodlife.com. Again, that is goldgoodlife.com. And I want to say something about that phone call right now because I know some of you are already thinking about reasons not to make it. Let me tell you what that call actually is. It's a free conversation with a real human being who knows this market inside and out. There's no commitment. There's no pressure. There's no obligation to buy a single thing. Worst case scenario, you listen, you decide you're not ready, you say thank you, and you hang up. 5 minutes out of your life. You had a pleasant conversation with a knowledgeable person at Reagan Gold Group. You have their number. No harm, no foul. Best case scenario, it's the most important phone call you make this year. What's stopping you? The call is free. The information is free. There's no reason on earth to put this off. Again, folks, 1-800-702-2212 or goldgoodlife.com. Write it down right now. All right, folks, quick disclaimer. As always, I am not a tax advisor or financial planner. The information I share is based on my personal opinion, decades of observation, and verifiable market data. Please always do your own due diligence. All right, guys, let's talk about what is actually happening in this market. Because while the average American is being distracted by the daily ticker tape, the smartest money in the world is making a massive historic move. They're quietly, aggressively moving out of paper promises and into physical reality. They're buying gold. They're buying silver. They're buying tangible assets that cannot be printed, cannot be inflated away, and cannot be hacked out of existence by a government that needs to balance its freaking books. Today, we're going to look at what the biggest banks in the world are saying. Not what they're saying on television, but what they're putting in their private research notes to their wealthiest clients. We're going to look at why legendary investors who used to criticize precious metals are suddenly making massive bets on them. And we're going to talk about what you need to do right now to make sure you and your family are on the right side of this shift. All right, I want to start with a report that just came out from Reuters. Reuters isn't a fringe blog, as many of you know. They're not a conspiracy website. They're one of the most respected mainstream financial news organizations on the planet. They've been reporting on global markets for a very, very long time. When Reuters publishes a story about what Wall Street analysts are saying, people listen, including me. And earlier this year, Reuters published a report with a headline that should be the wake-up call for every single person listening to this show. And I'm going to read it right now. The headline says, "Analysts ramp up gold forecasts as global uncertainties mount." Let me say that again. Mainstream Wall Street analysts are ramping up their gold forecasts. Not the gold bugs, not the precious metals dealers, the mainstream analysts, the people who work for the biggest financial institutions in the world. Why? Because as the headline says, global uncertainties are mounting, as we all know. We are seeing projections from massive institutions that would have sounded like Candyland just a few years ago. We're seeing banks like Deutsche Bank and Societe Generale projecting gold to reach $6,000 an ounce by the end of the year. We're seeing JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the United States, revising their targets upward, projecting gold to hit $6,000 by the end of 2026, and maybe even $6,300. Let that sink in. JP Morgan's telling you that their clients are preparing for $6,000 gold by the end of the year, and maybe even $6,300, maybe even $6,500. Who knows? Now, I want you to think about something. Why would JP Morgan, a bank that makes billions of dollars selling paper products, managing stock portfolios, and charging management fees, why would they be telling their clients to buy gold? Because the math is undeniable. The global debt burden is unsustainable. The geopolitical tensions in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and across Asia are escalating. The Federal Reserve is caught in an impossible position. They need to fight inflation, but they cannot raise rates too high without triggering a debt crisis on a $40 trillion national debt. And the central banks of the world, the people who actually print the fiat currency, are buying physical gold at the fastest pace in recorded history. When the people who print the money are trading that money for gold, what does that tell you about the future of money? It tells you that the people that are on top know the system is fragile. They know that a currency backed by $40 trillion in debt can't hold its value forever. They're hedging their own system with gold. And they're quietly telling the wealthiest clients to do the same. And that's why I am telling you guys the same thing the wealthiest clients are hearing. But here's the tragedy. The tragedy is while the central banks and the billionaires are securing their wealth in physical gold, the average American is still sitting in a 401k. Entirely exposed to the stock market, hoping for the best. They're trusting a system that the architects of that system are actively hedging against. Think about that. You cannot afford to be the last one to figure this out. When gold hits 5,000 and then 6,000, the mainstream media is finally going to start talking about it every single day. But by then, the massive gains will have already been made by the people who position themselves early. It's still early, folks. By then, the physical supply will be incredibly difficult to source at any price. You don't want to be chasing this market. You want to be positioned before the herd wakes up. Folks, do not leave your retirement in the hands of a fragile paper system. Call Reagan Gold Group right now. Don't put this off. 1-800-702-2212. Again, 1-800-702-2212. Or go to goldgoodlife.com. The specialist there can help you move a portion of your vulnerable paper assets into the absolute security of physical gold and silver. They can help you roll over your IRA or 401k tax-free and penalty-free into a gold IRA. And if you are a first-time buyer making a cash purchase, they'll send you a free safe to store your metals at home. Remember what I said earlier, folks. The call is free. The information is free. There is no commitment. You pick up the phone, you have a conversation, and you decide from there. That's all it is. 1-800-702-2212. Again, 1-800-702-2212 or visit goldgoodlife.com. All right, so let's pivot here a sec. When I talk to people about moving their money into precious metals, I sometimes hear the same objection. They say, Walt, I heard Warren Buffett doesn't like gold. He says it doesn't produce anything. He says it just sits there. And it's true. For decades, Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in human history, as you folks probably know this, has criticized gold. He famously said that gold gets dug out of the ground, melted down, buried in another hole, and we pay people to stand around guarding it. He argued that it has no utility, that it produces nothing. But I want to tell you a story that the mainstream media rarely talks about. Because while Buffett might criticize gold, his actions regarding precious metals tell a very, very different story, and a very powerful story at that. Back in 1997, Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, did something that shocked the financial world. They quietly went into the market and bought 129.7 million ounces of physical silver. Let's call it 130 million ounces of physical silver. Let me repeat that. The man who famously goes against precious metals bought 130 million ounces of physical silver. At the time, that represented roughly 25% of the entire world's annual silver production. He was not buying a silver mining stock. He was not buying a silver ETF. He was buying the physical metal. Why did he do it? Well, he was asked about it later at Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting, and Buffett explained his reasoning in a way that every single person listening to this show right now needs to hear. He saw that the world was consuming more silver than it was producing. He saw that the massive above-ground inventories were being depleted. He realized that silver was not just a monetary metal, and this was 1997, folks. It was a critical industrial metal that the modern world literally could not function without. And he knew that when supply falls short of demand for long enough, the price has to find a new equilibrium, right? Buffett saw a structural deficit, and he bought 130 million ounces to capitalize on it. Now let's fast forward to today, right? We're currently in the 6th consecutive year of a structural silver deficit. The world is consuming tens of millions of ounces more than it's pulling out of the ground. The Silver Institute confirms it. The analysts confirm it. The massive industrial demand from solar panels, electric vehicles, and artificial intelligence data centers are draining the global vaults at an unprecedented rate. The exact same supply and demand imbalance that caused Warren Buffett to buy 130 million ounces of silver in 1997 is happening right now, but on a way larger scale and much more aggressive scale at that. And it's not just silver. During the chaos in 2020, Berkshire Hathaway shocked the financial world again because they bought shares in Barrick Gold, one of the world's largest gold mining companies. The man who said gold just sits there and does absolutely nothing bought a gold mining company. Go figure, right? When the smartest investors in the world see the system shaking, they run to the exact same safe haven that human beings have used for 5,000 years. They run to tangible, physical assets. You don't need $1 billion, folks, to protect yourself. You just need the willingness to pick up the phone. Call Reagan Gold Group today, right now, at 1-800-702-2212. Again, 1-800-702-2212, or go to goldgoodlife.com, fill out a few simple questions, and someone will call you within 5 to 10 minutes and be there to go over your options. The call is free. The information is free. There's zero obligation. You're not signing anything. You're not committing to anything. You're having a conversation with someone who knows this market and can answer every single question you have with their eyes closed. Now, what's the worst thing that happens? You learn something and you hang up. You go about your day. That's the worst case. The best case is that you take the single most important step towards securing your family's financial future. So again, folks, 1-800-702-2212. That's 1-800-702-2212, or visit goldgoodlife.com. All right. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today. We talked about Reuters reporting that Wall Street is ramping up its gold forecasts. We talked about JP Morgan calling for $6,000 or above gold by year's end. And we talked about Warren Buffett buying 130 million ounces of physical silver because the supply and demand math was undeniable. We opened the show talking about legacy, about what it means to be in your 80s and 90s and have your kids stressed out because you did not make the right moves when the window was open. So now I want to talk to you about something that I think is the number one reason people don't act. It's not the money. It's not the market. It's the fact that they think it's too complicated. They don't want to deal with it. They think buying gold and silver is some mysterious, difficult process that requires a financial advisor and a law degree and 6 months of research. They think rolling over an IRA is a bureaucratic nightmare that is going to take forever and cost them a fortune. Let me tell you something, folks. It is the easiest thing in the world. It's as easy as tying your shoes. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying that to sell you something. I'm saying it because it's literally true. Literally true. I'm going to explain the entire process right now. You pick up the phone. You call 1-800-702-2212. A real human being answers. Not a robot, not a voicemail, a real person who knows this market and has helped thousands of people do exactly what you're about to do. You tell them what you have: a 401k, an IRA, cash savings, whatever it is. They walk you through your options. They explain everything in plain English. And if you want them to repeat it again, or a third time, or a fourth time, they will do that too. They answer every question you have. And then you decide what you want to do. That's it. That is it. That is the whole process. One phone call. If you want to roll over your IRA or 401k into a gold IRA, Reagan Gold Group handles all the paperwork. You do not have to figure out the forms. You don't have to navigate the IRS rules. They do it for you, tax-free, penalty-free. You do not lose a single dollar in the process. If you want to buy physical coins or bars and have them delivered to your door, they handle that too. They will tell you exactly what to buy based on your budget and your goals. They will make sure you get the right product at the right price. And if you're a first-time buyer, they'll send you over that free safe that I mentioned earlier so you can store your metals at home safely. There is no minimum that makes it out of reach. They're there to work with you. There is no complexity that makes it confusing. There is no reason, not one, to put this off. I want you to think about the people who called Reagan Gold Group 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The people who heard a show like this one, picked up the phone, had a 5-minute conversation, they made the move. Those people are sleeping soundly right now. They're not worried about inflation. They're not worried about the stock market crashing. They're not worried about what the Federal Reserve is going to do next week because they made the decision to protect themselves when the window was open. That could be you right now, today. Folks, I want you to pick up the phone. Call 1-800-702-2212. Tell them that Walt sent you. Tell them that you listened to this show. Again, 1-800-702-2212, or go to goldgoodlife.com if you prefer to do things online. 5 minutes, one conversation, a real person, no commitment, no pressure, no obligation, just information that could change the trajectory of your retirement and the legacy you leave for your family. You've been listening to this show. You've heard the data. You know what JP Morgan is saying. You know what Bank of America is saying. You know what the supply deficit looks like. You know what the history of fiat currency tells us. You have everything you need to make this decision. The only thing left is that call. 1-800-702-2212 or go to goldgoodlife.com. Do it right now before you put the phone down and forget. There is no time like the present. Do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. Do it so that in 20 years your family's talking about the smart decision that you made today, not the one you wish you made. This is The Gold Show. I'm Walt Philips, and we'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to The Gold Show. I am your host, Walt Phillips. This show is brought to you by Reagan Gold Group. Quick reminder, I am not a financial advisor, a tax advisor, or licensed investment professional. Everything I share is my personal opinion based on research and market observation. Please do your own due diligence. Okay, folks, if you were with us in segment 1, you know we covered a lot of ground. We talked about Reuters reporting that mainstream Wall Street analysts are ramping up their gold forecasts. We talked about JP Morgan projecting gold to reach $6,000 by year's end, even $6,300. We talked about Bank of America putting 135 to 309 target on silver by year's end. We talked about Warren Buffett quietly buying 130 million ounces of physical silver in 1997 because he saw the exact same supply and demand imbalance we are seeing today, except 25 years earlier. And we talked about the sixth consecutive year of a structural silver deficit and the world consuming 46 million more ounces of silver every year than it's pulling out of the ground. The data isn't ambiguous. The smart money is moving and the window is open right now. Folks, before we go any further, I want you to write this down again. 1-800-702-2212. That is the Reagan Gold Group's direct number. Or go to goldgoodlife.com. Again, that is goldgoodlife.com. One call, a real person, no commitment, no pressure, no obligation. Worst case scenario, you hang up and go about your day. But the best case scenario is the most important call that you make this year. Again, folks, 1-800-702-2212 or go to goldgoodlife.com. All right, guys. Now I am really, really excited. I wanted to tell you, everyone listening at home, about this in segment one, but I wanted to leave a little bit of surprise here on the show. But I'm excited because last week, we had fun. I had fun having my next guest on the show. And I know for those of you that listened, you did too. So I'm pleased to announce that I am bringing back my good friend Carl from the Reagan Gold Group. Carl is one of the top precious metals specialists in the country. Carl and I have known each other for over 10 years, and in that time, I have personally watched him help thousands of people make the right moves at the right time. He has probably forgotten more about precious metals than most people know. He knows this market inside and out, and there is nobody that I trust more to have this conversation with. And with that, Carl, welcome back to the Gold Show, my friend.
Hey, Walt, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm pleased to have you here. Carl, listen, here's what's on my mind, my friend. And you know, I keep hearing from people who are on the fence, people that are close to me, saying things like, is it too late? Should I wait for a dip? Are gold and silver done? And honestly, it frustrates me to no end, man, because with everything going on in the world right now, the geopolitical tensions, the debt, the supply deficits, the central banks loading up, I look at this market and I don't see confusion, man. I see the clearest buying opportunity I've seen in years, and it kills me, Carl, that people are sitting on the sidelines. So the question I have for you is, number one, are we on the same page? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like the gift of a lifetime. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, obviously nobody has a crystal ball and nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
But the reality of it is I agree with you. I mean, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul for forever. Look at what's going on in this country and in this world. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a reason why gold and silver has done so well throughout the years and why so many people are trying to get into it still. You know, anybody who's sitting on the fence, I mean, I just tell them I'm sorry that that's what you're, comfortable with, because like you said, I mean, the writing's on the wall.
Right, right.
Look and see what's going on.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, what really gets me, Carl, is that, before you hopped on the show, I was telling the folks at home, JP Morgan saying 6,000 gold by year's end. Bank of America saying 309 silver's on the table. And these aren't gold bugs, as you very well know. These are the biggest banks in the world, Carl. You hear people talk about this stuff. I'm sure your clients bank with them and talk about it all day long. So it's like, when someone tells me that they're waiting for more information, it's like what more information do they need? When you have someone say, hey, I'm calling in and I need to know more.
Wait, let me interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
People say that all the time.
Right.
They say they need more information or they have to do more research.
Right.
What research are you doing?
Right.
What more do you need? We got $40 trillion in debt. The Fed's printed more money, in the last 10 years. It's out of control. We're watching central banks throughout the world buy gold and silver at a record pace.
Right.
And when people say, I'm researching.
Right.
Well,
Right.
You've never bought metals before. This is the first time. This is what we're here for, is to help and assist.
Right.
It's like saying, man, my spouse needs to have a heart transplant. I'm going to research it over the weekend, and I'm going to do it myself on Monday morning.
Right.
Come on, folks. We're here to help you and give you that information.
Right.
Talking to us, there's no pressure. You come, you ask your questions, and we get you what you need.
Right. Yeah. Carl, listen, man. You hit it on the head, dude. And like what I think, right? This is what runs through my mind. And I have, I'm not in the position that you're in. You're a guy that just last year alone helped, make $500 million in sales in the precious metals space. I let people know you were one of the top guys in the industry for a reason. Because you help show people, first-time buyers, seasoned buyers, it doesn't matter. But what frustrates me is that, the people who waited in 2020, right, Carl, when gold was at, what was it, like I think $1,700 or something like that?
Approximately.
Yeah, then they watch it run to $3,000 without them, right? And then the same people who waited on silver at $25, they watched it hit $121 in January. And it's like waiting has a price tag, man. Waiting has a price tag. And it's like invisible until it's too late. And that's why I'm always so animated on this show, because the people listening at home, I want them to understand the urgency of this. And it's not because I'm sitting here trying to sell someone on something. I don't do what you do. My goal in life is just to educate people about what is going on. This is what my life's work is. This is what I'm going to be doing today. This is what I was doing 5 and 10 years ago. And this is what I'm going to be doing 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So, if we pivot it, and let's talk here about, people being nervous about that, because obviously the prices have pulled back from the highs. And Carl, that's exactly what I want to talk about for a sec, because, the pullback isn't a warning sign in my eyes. It's a gift. The fundamentals did not change. The deficit did not disappear. The central banks did not stop buying. The price pulled back because paper traders took profits. That's it. The physical metal is still the same asset as it was at the highs. And, I'm just curious to hear you chime in on that and what your thoughts are.
Well, first of all, you're 100% right. Nothing's changed in this country.
Right.
Just because paper, gold, and silver, trended downwards because a lot of stockbrokers sold. What changed in this world?
Right.
Did the debt go away?
Right.
Did the inflation stop?
Right.
Did the money printing stop? Unfortunately, we're kind of on a hamster wheel here right now, and there's no end in sight to when we're going to actually fix the mess that this country's in.
Right.
And it's not one political party or another. This has been many, many years of robbing Peter to pay Paul, to now, it's coming to a head. There's a reason why, the Saudis stopped taking U.S. dollars for oil. Few years back. They're talking about, this BRICS nation stuff. About starting a new currency to be the global dominant currency. Walt, I don't know. To me, it's very simple and straightforward. It's, would you want something that's real, that you could hold in your hand, you can carry it in your pocket, you can bury it in the backyard if you want, but something of value, not just a piece of paper that, was printed out of thin air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and listen, Carl, I mean, all amazing points, man. And, I think another thing that just really gets me, and, I explained this a couple of shows back, but, because you and I are friends, but, you remember when I brought my mom over to the Reagan Gold Group, I brought her over to you, and, she didn't know anything about physical assets. I mean, you were the one that helped her. I stayed out of it because I wanted her to deal with somebody there, and I wanted to be hands off because I knew she was in good hands, for lack of better terms there. Maybe those are really good terms. But, the seniors that are listening right now, and I don't want to make some generalized judgment about seniors, because I'm sure there's a lot of very sharp seniors that are listening at this very moment that know a ton about gold and silver, and maybe they're on the fence for different reasons. But in the latter group, there's so many seniors out there that are just used to what investing looked like 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, all that kind of stuff. And they're not really brought up to the times of where things are headed. They're unaware of the manipulation. They're unaware of, JP Morgan pulling off an almost $1 billion heist in 2020 that they got caught with for manipulating the precious metal space, along with many other banks. It wasn't just JP Morgan, which directly correlates to these banks stealing American dollars. And, the point that I get across is that, unless you have a terrible alarm system on your house, or you're the most forgetful person in the world, you can buy, a couple of $100,000 of gold, Carl. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you can fit it in half of a shoebox with room to spare. You can fit it in a shoebox and still put your kid's pair of sneakers in there to cover it up. And that's the power of it. And nobody can, flush it away with a blockchain or a day of a stock market going bad, because it's literally something that you can put in your pocket. And, it's something, for me, it was very important with my own mother, because I was watching the stock market drain her money, and her financial advisor, and I don't want to say anything bad about the financial advisor, but when I came back home to be closer to her, I got my eyes on everything closely, and all he was interested in was his 10%, Carl. He wasn't interested in her well-being. He didn't care what was going on with her. She was a number in his Rolodex of clients. And, when you're coming across seniors and people that are, moving over their 401k or whatever it may be, what's your experience with it? What's their level of knowledge? And are they is this kind of foreign to them, or is it a mixed bag? Like, I'm just curious to hear. You're on the front lines. You know this.
It's a very mixed bag.
Yeah. Okay.
No. It's a very mixed bag. I mean, there's some people that have been buying metals for years. There's a lot of folks I talk to that they've heard about it, but they know absolutely nothing.
Right.
But I always tell people, remember, keep this simple. Don't overcomplicate this, and don't make this harder than what it is. It's a simple buy and hold investment.
Right.
You buy it goes up in value. You've made money. It goes down in value. You lost money.
Right.
It's that simple and straightforward. But, obviously history doesn't have to repeat itself. But if you go back and look at, thousands of years of history, gold and silver have always been there.
Right.
Not stocks, not bonds, not U.S. dollars, not, euros or yuan or any currency that's out there. So, there's a reason why people want to have a physical, tangible asset, because it has that inverse relationship to the markets, but also the U.S. dollar. And in regards to doing this, so many people want to do this for the best reason, or at least I feel the best reason. It's real simple. They just want to protect what they have, preserve what they have, and they like to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
Right.
You want to make sure your money's there when you need it.
Right. No, very good points, man. And that brings me to something I think, and this might be the most important thing that I can ask you. And, you and I believe we touched on this last week. but and I say this all the time on air, Carl. I know you're very, very busy. You're a guy that's working morning and night and helping people all day long. But, on air, I tell people, and they still don't believe me, Carl. I tell them what actually happens when someone calls that number. And I want you to walk them through it, because I think people have this image in their head of some complicated financial transaction. And it's just not that. And, I know that because I've been down this road. I've witnessed it. Yeah, I've been there. I've listened to you. I've been there. But I want people to hear it from your perspective so they can hear from the horse's mouth just how easy this is.
Well, first of all, it's simple. We do two things. People either have cash, meaning checking, savings, brokerage, or physical cash that they want to invest in the metals, or they do what's called an IRA rollover. They just roll over some sort of a qualified retirement account into what's called a self-directed precious metals IRA. We have a team here in-house that helps from start to finish. We make it simple and easy. And the main thing is this: there's no pressure here. A phone call doesn't cost anything. If you have questions, call us. Call. We got a great team here. Feel free to ask for me directly. I'm here. This is what I do all day long. I love doing it, and I love chatting with people and getting them information so they can make an informed decision. It's that simple and straightforward. What we're here for is to help educate folks and let them know that they do have options with their retirement. It doesn't all have to be in paper. It doesn't have to be in U.S. dollars, and it doesn't have to be in the stock market. If they're not comfortable with that. One of the things I hear from people constantly is how uncomfortable they feel about the markets. And I agree with them. How could you be comfortable with some of these price to earnings ratios and the way, these companies are, hanging on by a thread here? The economy's not doing well. Just because the stock market's high doesn't mean the economy's doing good. It's time for people to take control of their own money and their own destiny. That's the most important thing, is taking control of it yourself and, making a decision you'll feel comfortable with, not some guy in an office that makes, 2, 5, 8, 10% of what you have invested with them.
Yeah, and best part is that, for everyone listening at home right now, you can ask for Carl directly. He's not on this show as a plan. Like he lives this. He is there every single day. And the benefit for those of you listening right now is that you're listening to the top guy, to the guy that has, over a decade of experience doing this, vast experience that's helped so many people. And when you call that number, and we're going to get into that, guys, because that number again, which I want to mention right now, 1-800-702-2212. Again, that's 1-800-702-2212. Or you can go to goldgoodlife.com. But folks, if you call that number, you can ask for Carl directly. Carl is not going to pick up that first call, but you can ask to speak to him directly. And if he is on another call or if he is busy, you best believe that he will get back to you and be there to personally walk you through everything. And you guys will be shocked at just how easy this process is. Carl, unfortunately, and we're pretty much coming up on all the time we have today, but I would just like to say thank you again for all of your insight and being on the show. And I look forward to having you on again, hopefully next week or the week after if you have the availability, because I think the things that you have to say are truly invaluable for the listener at home. So I just want to thank you again, Carl.
No, you're welcome. Walt, thanks so much for having me. And like I always tell everybody, feel free to call us. Questions don't cost anything. Just, whatever we could do to be of assistance. Please feel free to reach out, like Walt said, Gold Good Life, or give us a call. Feel free to talk to any of the guys or ask for myself. I'd love to chat with you and do what I can to be of assistance.
Thanks so much, Carl. All right, folks. So listen, with that is all the time we have for this week. And I want to just end with this. One phone call, a real person answers. You have a conversation. It could be Carl. They walk you through your options in plain English. You ask every question you have. There is no commitment. There is no pressure. There is no obligation to buy a single thing. If you decide you are not ready, you say thank you, you can hang up, you go about your day, no harm, no foul. But if you are ready, if you've been listening to this show, to what I have said, to what Carl has just said, and you know in your gut that it is time to secure your family's future, then this is the call that changes everything. Do not be lazy about your own future. Do not put off the 5-minute conversation that could be the most important financial decision you ever make. Do not let another week go by while central banks and the billionaires are accumulating the physical metal that should be in your hands. Again, folks, 1-800-702-2212. That's 1-800-702-2212, or visit goldgoodlife.com. Do it right now before you put the phone down and forget. Do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. Do it so that in 20 years, your family is talking about the smart decision that you made today, not the one that you wish you made. This is The Gold Show. I'm Walt Philips. Make sure to secure your future, protect your family, and we will see you right back here next week. Have a good one, folks.
You've been listening to The Gold Show with Walt Philips, sponsored by Reagan Gold Group, a trusted precious metals leader helping Americans safeguard their wealth and retirement savings with physical gold and silver. To learn more about hedging against uncertain times and securing your retirement, visit goldgoodlife.com. That's goldgoodlife.com, or call 800-702-2212 to speak with one of our specialists. Reagan Gold Group is not a tax advisor. Join us next time for more insights into the purest form of money, physical gold and silver.